please forgive me for my transgressions. Oh yeah.
Yo, we live in misery, ghetto infested, crack facilities where people struggle and strive against their own abilities. I tried to put the people on and tell them what they doing is wrong. An epidemic, this is prolonged. Misery, the day that Christ was betrayed, as he sat and broke bread. One had a scheme to hold him back. Now picture this, living your life at the age of 12, going around town telling the wise men to get on track and growing up, walking in the footsteps of Christ, knowing death, knowing the time Satan tempts you in the night. Fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, afflictions, praying for strength in the Lord to overcome this. And what about the times when they doubted you, didn't believe because they couldn't see what it is to see? You got eyes but they don't see, you got ears but they don't hear. That's why we living in misery.
Forgive me for I've sinned over and over again, and again and again and again. Lord, forgive me for I've sinned over and over again, and again and again and again.
Attempting to reach the promised land, pay homage and praise to Yahweh Shai. Why should he even acknowledge man? We represent the 12 tribal, even the families of Israel, spoken of all over the Bible, awaiting the arrival of the Son of Man. If the truth hurts, then duck down, cause his verse is homicidal. Bust my gun in hand, destroying my arch rival. He's on the ground, stretched out like a rubber band. Shot him 7 times, I understand. Don't take it literal, condition is critical, cause every shot was spiritual. 3 shots to the face, judgment, mercy, and faith. By the grace of the Most High that we weren't replaced. 3 more shots landed, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Without these, your spirit abandons your body, and now your flesh is left stranded. The last was love, most powerful force on the planet. Source is outlandish, a place where the lost in our hearts will be branded. Living out the true example of what a man is. Our minds are like a fragile package that's damaged. The eyes of the Lord got us on candid camera, watching us whatever we do. Forever he rules. For us the Red Sea was severed in two.
Faith for all Israel to have. Right. They crucified the Son of Man. Wicked acts like him. I ran since I was a slave, mentally pained. I cry out to the Lord, but never in vain. We soon reign and have dominance like the days of old King Solomon. Low in tolerance. The Lord covenant, the promised land, right. The kingdom, the power, and the glory. Amen.
Forgive me for I've sinned over and over again, and again and again and again. Lord, forgive me for I've sinned over and over again, and again and again and again.
Ever since I get the Spirit of the Lord, I've been walking in the righteous path of Yahweh Shai, trying to keep my head up as I walk by all of the simple and perverse. Boy, this world is such a curse when I tell you, I mean there is no sign of the truth. No more praying in the booths or the tabernacles and our solemn feasts where we used to eat all the holy things put before the Most High when we cover sins. Man, you should have been there when I tell you, what the hell you call this wretched ass place? Such a disgrace. Man, we've been misplaced. Lord, we've been praised. Now we're praising every day, wishing you were here, looking up the sky where we know that you will appear. Come on down, lift us up, take us out of here. Bring us to a land where the righteous is always near. And it's all about faith, cause there ain't no fear.
Lord, forgive me for I've sinned over and over again, and again and again and again. Lord, forgive me for I've sinned over and over again, and again and again and again.
Despised and rejected, spit on and disrespected, came to my own afflicted. Why didn't they listen to me? The greatest sacrifice no other man could ever give. I gave my life and soul, knowing it would make you live. Spirit was willing, with my flesh I had to overcome. I asked my Father, pass this cup, but I was the only one to do His will, fulfill the scriptures to perfection. Lay down my life in hope of reconciliation. Christ is on His way. Will you be waiting for me? Christ is on His way. Will I find faith in Thee? Christ is on His way. Come to end all this confusion. Christ is on His way. Establish eternal righteous ruling. Christ is on His way. Will you be ready for me? Christ is on His way. Oh, will I find iniquity? Christ is on His way. I bear the sins of many. Christ is on His way. How could you do this to me? Of all the families on earth, you only have I known. My sheep who's lost in this world, to you my love was shown. I came to give repentance, forgiveness of your sins, to be a prince and savior, but you won't let me in. Instead you delivered me unto the enemy, with all your blasphemies. How could you do this to me? Stiff-necked and stuck in your ways, you broke the covenant. You only got a few days before I make my judgment. Oh, forgive them, for they know not what they do. What they do, what they do. I will plead with them face to face till I turn them back to you.
Yo, you thought I wasn't coming back? Imagine that, watch the sky crack when I attack. I held back the winds from the four corners. Now you were gonna watch my battle wax get bloody. No one above me. It pleased them to choose me, to bruise me, but nothing could move me. You refused me like you never knew me. I didn't have to do it when I carried your iniquity, your wickedly witchery. Now you don't remember me. The whole world watched on my name. They lied, denied that I died, but so they pierced my side. Now I will return to burn, to unlearn, but the whole world heard, but forsook
everything
my
I do
word.
is for the Lord. If I breathe for Christ. If I die for Christ, no matter the price. Understand it, I present my body as a living sacrifice.
That's right.
Repent, for the kingdom of the Lord is at hand. The coming of Yahweh Shai is nigh. And He prophesied when He was going to be born and died. I hope these cats realize that there ain't much time. First and foremost is Satan holds post. Keep your guards up and close with the armor of the Most High. He's not a man that he should lie. I hate when we teach Jake and they walk on by.
Christ is on His way. Will you be ready for me? Christ is on His way. Will I find faith in Thee? Christ is on His way. I'm coming to end all this confusion. Christ is on His way. Establish eternal righteous ruling. Christ is on His way. Will you be ready for me? Christ is on His way. Or will I find iniquity? Christ is on His way. I bear the sins of many. Christ is on His way. How could you do this to me? Christ is on His way. I'm here to settle the score. Turn up the nations for war. Ain't gonna take this no more. Israel, you better endure. I'm here to settle the score. Turn up the nations for war. Ain't gonna take this no more. 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 Ain't gonna take this no more.
Welcome. Thank you for being here. You guys could have been any place on the planet. But you chose to be here tonight. Thank you so much. And we are so grateful to you guys being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. A little tired, so, bear with the voice, bear with me. I don't think tonight's going to be a real long one, but we're going to see how we rock out. So, welcome to the village. We have 4 hashtags here that we deal with. And those 4 are no more, be the change, it takes a village, and visitation rights are for inmates. Definitely for inmates. Then we move on to AAA. And we all know we're not talking about the guys that pick you up when your car breaks down. We're talking about acknowledgement, acceptance, and application. Acknowledgement that you are the reason why you're in the situation that you are in most situations. You are the one that made the decision. You are the one that decided to go and do what you did. You put yourself in that position. No one forced you in most situations. Acknowledgement. Then we have acceptance, accepting the ramifications of the decisions that we make, right? To every action is a reaction, cause and effect. For you to have the effect, you must have the cause. So that being said, understanding that there is a gap in between acknowledgement and acceptance. And what sits in between that gap is growth, growing. And we know that there is no comfortability in growth. You do not walk out the same person that you walked in as, right? When you follow these words. Okay, I guess we're going to run through these things quick, fast. Last and certainly not least, we have application. Then we have the mirror, self-inflection. Starts with you, looking inside yourself, right? Then we have the truth is too heavy for the weak, right? This world is about do as Romans do, but when we're in Christ, we don't do that, right? We stand up for truth. We don't follow wickedness. We move on to we need the vision of God, not the sight of man. We move to stop being emotional animals and start being spiritual creatures. With that being said, thank you guys for being here. Where is my man at?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
Okay, so it's official. We are live. We are in the building. What is going on to everybody that is here? Got my big brother, Anthony, big brother number 1. And we got Mr. Best. What's going on, fellas?
Hey, how's it going this morning? This evening?
This evening.
Whatever.
Man, I'm something. I'm tired, man. I'm beat, bro. You know how you and I we talk. I'm beat.
I understand, man. I
understand.
Yeah. I know
How
you
you
will.
How you doing, my G?
I'm doing good. Just been running around like crazy.
Oh man, you too, B. I know you. Schedules is crazy. It's crazy. Mr. Best, what's the deal, yo?
Hey, what's up, fam? What's going on?
Chilling.
How it be, man? How it be?
What's going on, big man? Bolo, what's the deal, man? What's the deal?
I'm here, man. I'm here. Yo, big bro, Big Ant, did you watch the video?
That was wild, bro. That was wild. Oh man. Good night.
Was it crazy?
That was something. That was something. Only one made it back.
Only one. Only
and
one.
The deal is they didn't even try to get the other guys out.
No.
I think that's the part that was just crazy. And they said one stayed alive in there for like 4 days.
Yeah. He had little air, the air compressors or whatever things on the back, and they tried to make their way out. It's crazy. And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, there's a video of these 5 men that were repairing a pipe line off the side of Trinidad and Tobago. And as they were repairing it, the pipeline pipe burst open and sucked them in. Sucked them in. You know, these cats was in there for 3 to 4 days. You know, they had a court, hearing and everything, and they didn't really go too in depth about the court hearing, what came out of it. But just to hear my man, did you hear the way he broke down and started crying?
Yeah, he thought he failed them.
Yeah.
He made it out and tried to get help and get guys down there, and the people actually they actually found where they were, and then it was like yeah, okay, we're gonna try our best, but it's almost like what they needed to do was cut that whole pipe open,
Mm-hmm.
but or at least try to get something in there to suck some of that stuff out or whatever, man. They couldn't do it, or they wouldn't do it, I should say.
They wouldn't do it because of the money and because of all the repairs that they had to. And they said that they weren't supposed to even go in there anyway because it wasn't safe.
Right. Because of that, those new plugs or the plug type of plugs they were using.
Right.
They weren't good. And so it was like, bruh, that's insane. That's insane.
It's after the show this morning, Big Bro and I we had a conversation, and the reason why I sent him the video is because there was another video that was circulating, and I'm sure people have seen it about this. Did you see that video too? I know I didn't send it to you. Did you see it though, or did you?
Which one? Is it
the one of the woman that didn't want to get out the car because she was going to the Cheesecake Factory restaurant? I gotta send it to you.
Yeah, no, I didn't see that.
I'm sorry, I didn't send it to you. So the story is, they were supposed to be going on this first date, this guy and girl, and she was getting done up, doing her thing. He came to pick her up. So let me just set up the premise, or set up the stage. He's well to do, and I can only go off that by the car he's driving. Don't know the dude. He's well to do. Cars banging, from what we could see. So he arrives at her crib, and she's not ready. She's an hour late. He's downstairs. She doesn't let him up. Rightfully so. She says that, I don't know you, blah, 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 blah. Safety. So he's like, cool, all right. So they arrive at the Cheesecake Factory, and she's like, nah, I'm not getting out the car. So he gets out the car to go open the door to let her out, and she's like, nah, the type of woman that I am, I'm not doing cheesecake. Look how I look. I'm not doing Cheesecake Factory. That's not happening. A chain restaurant? Nah. So she tells him that. He gets back into the whip, and very polite dude, very polite, because I'd have went left, but he was extremely polite. And he was like, what are you talking about? She's like, well, this is a chain restaurant, blah, 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 blah. So he says to her, well, this was the restaurant we were going to go to, which was, an expensive restaurant. And she was like, yeah, let's go there. He said, well, we lost our reservation because you made us late. And she had a very masculine vibration at first. You know what I'm saying? Very defiant. No, I'm not doing this. No, no, no. So as he starts to break it down very calmly and says, well, this was where we were supposed to go. And she was like, well, why can't we go to a restaurant like that? There ain't others. He was like, nah, I'm going off your vibration from you telling me that we don't know each other, which I agree. You didn't want to let me in, which I agree, which I'm cool with. Why should I have to extend myself when you're not extending yourself? This is our first date. You dig what I'm saying? So at that point, he's turned off, and he's telling her, you know what, man? So at that point, when he starts to say this, she starts to calm down. So he says to her, you know what? I'm just going to take you home. Let me just take you home. And she's like, but we can't go. He's like, nah, I'm good. We ain't going We ain't our vibrations don't match. We ain't a match for each other. You know what I'm saying? So let me take you home and we'll handle it. And we'll just go our separate ways. Her whole vibration changed, right? And I preface this to say that it's crazy how when we look at this, when we look at the first off, anything y'all guys want to say about what I just said?
Yes, sir.
Go
All
ahead.
right, look, man. For all you young brothers out there, or you brothers out there that's trying to get to know somebody, please learn the art of saying goodbye. Okay, learn the art of saying goodbye. Peace out. You're not, you know what I mean? I'm not doing this with you. Please learn the art of doing that, because the quicker that you do that, the quicker that God will bring somebody in your life that actually appreciates you. And that's also for women too. Don't think you have to stick with a man and deal with his abuse or deal with his stuff. You don't. There's 8 billion people on this planet, and the population is growing each and every day. So listen, y'all don't have to put up with nothing you don't want to. Please have an understanding that if somebody doesn't appreciate you and they don't appreciate you trying to bless them and be in their life, please leave immediately. Okay? Leave immediately. And that's all I have to say.
Okay. Well said. Big brother number one. Anything you want to add or say?
I will say this. There is no person that you do not know that is worthy of the best of you until you get to know them. I will leave it at that.
So, we talk about this a lot. And I say, and I'll make my statement after these brothers just eloquently put it. Um, it starts with you knowing you, right? And I always give this example: when you have $100,000 diamond, you did the work, got it certified, you know where it's from, it's not a blood diamond, you've done all this work to certify it, you've done all this work, and it's worth $100,000. And people start offering you 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000. They don't offer you what it's worth, the value. You shortchange yourself. A lot of the times we let our situation dictate the decisions we make, which shouldn't be. We should move according to it, but we shouldn't let it be the end all be all. So a lot of the times we're not patient enough to wait for that one person that's going to offer you, right? That you have to have that buyer that fits that seller. A lot of the times we're not patient enough to wait. So because of our situation, we may just say, you know what, I'm going to take that $30,000, and you leave all that other money, 70 grand on the table. And then you get pissed off and upset when that person then sells it for 150,000. So I say that to say, when you know what your worth is, you demand your value in your standard. And like what Mr. Best said, and what Anthony said so eloquently to both of them, that you're patient, right? You give the best of yourself to those that are deserving of it, right? And that only comes through time. That only comes through courting. That only comes through being patient. And this guy, again, he was real smooth with it, Big Bro, in 84. Very smooth with it, because again, like VB said, I'd have called her an Uber. She wouldn't have been in my whip. You dig what I'm saying? But he's very calm, and he turned around, took her back. Again, I don't know if it's a sketch. I don't know if it's something they made up. It didn't look like it. And then this video of the guys that we were talking about, these were 5 men off the coast of Trinidad and Tobago. They were pipeline oil rigger guys, and they were hundreds of feet underwater. And this covering, this cap burst open and sucked them in. And rarely do we get to see footage of this happening. Rarely, right? So they're giving you the cartoon breakdowns. They're showing you how it happened, and then they say there was a GoPro, and this GoPro caught it all. What scared me, what sent chills down my spine, big bro, is while they're in the pipe and the oil is in there with them, these guys are checking on each other. I forget the name of the head dude, and he's like, "Yo, brother, you guys are right." And one guy said, "Yo, my legs are broken." How did that make you feel when these guys were in the pipeline speaking to each other?
I definitely commend them, but the majority of, from what I've seen overall, the majority of men, of hardworking men, always have a sense of a calm to them, a stillness, if you will, no matter what's going on. And that's one of the things that is something that is learned, right? I have my responsibilities. Things did not go right. Let me see what the situation is, and especially if you're with others that are with you, and are going through the same thing. One of the things, like this guy here, he knew he was in the pickle. Let me see if everybody else is all right. Who got sucked down here with me? You know, but we need to get together so we can figure out some type of strategy, or what's the best way we can get out, or even if we can see if we hear someone, one person left, or we missed someone, let's see what we can do to try to contact them and reach out to them, right? To see about getting us some type of help. But the one thing I noticed about the video is they didn't sit around waiting for someone to come and save them either. They proceeded to, not knowing the situation and how things are going, they proceeded to go in and say, okay, let's try to do this and try to get ourselves and work as a team to get ourselves to safety. And they did. They tried. And they got so far to the point where two of them, one of them went ahead, did not knowing that one of the other guys had followed. But he also, in going ahead and everything else, he was risking his life. Mm-hmm. And you got to see what was basically the providence of God that was allowing him to make it through the areas that he did. Because every time it seemed like he came to the end of his rope, there was another dive tank.
Right.
There was another oxygen tank. And he went through that and he used that up. And as he's going and using that one, gets to the end, and he goes and he thinks this is the end for me. Bam, there's another oxygen tank, right? And so the stuff that was provided, the stuff that he was able to do to get the people that were with him to safety, or at least attempt to, was in and of itself heroic. And it was heroic not because the guy was like, I'm going to be Superman today, but even in spite of all of his fear, even in spite of all of his uncertainty, even in spite of all of these things, he still pushed on to his goal. He pushed on to the goal of trying not to free himself, although that was part of it, but in trying to get help for the other guys that were there, that were in need. One guy had one of his legs broken. One guy had a foot broken. They couldn't move like he could. And so these things are it just goes to show the character of a person, right? And that's taught. That's really taught.
It he didn't want to be that leader. He had to be that leader. He had to. Right. And when you hear him saying, you hear his when he said that the human body wants to breathe, even though we were holding our breath for a long time. The human body wants to breathe, and the only thing you got there is oil. There's no air, even though we were in an air pocket. He said you tried to open it, and they're doing all of this with their eyes closed. He said every time you opened your eyes, now imagine you trying to open your eyes, and there's nothing but oil going into it. Nothing but oil is going into it. You know.
Melephant, what he was talking about was there was a video that we saw earlier today, and it was a comparison. Basically what he was doing was a comparison on the video of the person who was spoiled and entitled versus someone that was acting selfless and with good character, right? And how they were basically able to move. And the whole premise of that story of what we're talking about right now, it was basically 5 guys working on a pipeline hundreds of feet down from an oil rig, and because of the company cheapening out on the equipment that was used to hold and pressurize certain things in place, they got sucked into the pipeline. And being sucked into the pipeline, it took them far in, and then they got stuck. And these guys are trying to find their way out. Go ahead.
So that's just basically it. But it goes to show that when you hear people say that men are not needed, we don't need men. You know, and again, from the world that we come from dealing with Christ, we don't have these conversations, right? Because we know what our positions are, and we know how important both men and women are to forward the glory of Christ. However, we still have to go into these worlds and further his glory and bring that light. And when you hear in the outside world, when you hear women say, we don't need men at all, and like he said, you know, the self-entitlement of women, and you have self-entitlement with men, right? We have to understand that, you know, being a leader is not an entitlement. It's a service. It's not an entitlement. If you find a leader that's entitled, that's a bad leader to follow. I promise you that. It's a bad leader to follow. It's a service, because they're in servitude to you to make sure you're good. That's their job as a leader, to make sure you're good, to make sure the people are good. And that's what this man did. Hundreds of feet underground, not being able to breathe if it was not for the Lord strategically placing those air tanks. And to this day, the guy feels like he failed him. Did you see when he broke down, he started crying? He was like, yo, B, you know, I'm the only one that survived. Mm-hmm. And he did everything in his power. And this is a man, these are men working hundreds of feet underwater on a pipeline. Men who that work thousands of feet in the air constructing buildings. Men that go out there and risk their life to protect both you and I, big brother. So, you know, I'm saying this to say that don't let, you know, what society, don't let what these hurt men and hurt women, whatever it might be, push a narrative that when you're at your weakest point, you grasp after that low-hanging fruit to go with your narrative when that's not the situation. You know, because it seems that's what it seems to be like. You know, you have people that prey on others that have gone through certain things in their life, and they prey on these men and women to push a narrative that they know is not true. They know that are lies. And they profit off of it. They profit. but they're appealing to your emotional and your physical side, not just spiritual and mental, because your spiritual and mental would be connected to God, and you would be really breaking down what they're trying to say, and you would look at them like they're hypocrites and maniacs. But because you're in that broken state, that that uh, uh, working from being too emotional, you fall victim. I mean, what do you add to that, Big Ant? Well, if you think I'm wrong, you know.
No, but that's the word when it comes down to people having idle hands, right? An idle person has a sense of entitlement. A person who is not idle and who is about their father's business will never feel entitled. They will always have a sense of humility. And so when you look at these guys that were here, the reason why he was hurting so bad and why he constantly, the guy was constantly on the stand saying, I failed him, I failed him, right? Well, he's saying all of that because in his mind, he did fail him because no one else got out, right?
Mhm.
And that was a responsibility that he had taken on to see those men free. And even after he was able to get free, right now you could almost see it in his face that if he had to do it all over again, he would have tried to pull all of those guys with him, right? He would have found a way. Yeah, y'all can't breathe and do that, but we're going to try to do this all together. No man left behind type of thing, right? And you see that you hear people who's been in the military and have seen true war. You catch some of those veterans from the uh, Korean War or even Vietnam and stuff like that, and even the stuff that it wasn't on that grand of a scale when it came to Desert Storm, but things that happened in Iraq and Iran, uh, Iraq and Afghanistan, and you hear certain people talk about certain things happening and everything else, and you'll catch some of them not wanting to talk about it because it was just too painful. Because there were people that they knew and they had begun to form friendships with, and even to a point where it was a brotherhood, right? You watch my back, I got yours. And then to see someone's life taken out, quick, fast, and in a hurry before you can, even suck in a breath, right? But this is the person that you were supposed to have been watching their back, just like they were watching yours, right? It does something to a person, right? The person who survives, it does something to them. And so when we understand that and we look at it, it's a responsibility that most men carry upon their shoulders like boulders, even if it's not their responsibility to carry it, but they will carry it like boulders. Even in some of the jobs that are out there, right? You get to working with someone side by side, and they could call you in the middle of the night about an issue or whatever else, and asking for your help and your aid, and you don't think anything about it. You automatically jump in and you help. Why? Because y'all have developed a friendship, and you've developed a good working relationship, and you've made um, those bonds to the point that they have helped pull you up when you needed help. You help pull them up when you needed help, and it becomes in many ways a brotherhood, right? So that when something happens, or if one of those people that you were working with leaves, or whatever the case may be, gets fired, whatever the case may be, it changes the whole dynamic of everything, right? There's a reason for that, because as men, you don't get the luxury of being saved, right? You don't get the luxury of being sitting uh, and waiting for someone to come and help you. You learn early on that you do everything that you can initially, You do everything you can to get out of a situation, but when help is offered, you accept the help that is offered, right? But what you don't do is you don't um, you don't turn down the help that's offered, but you don't sit back and just twiddle your thumbs and say, well, somebody's going to come help me because they see me down. Somebody's going to come help me because I'm just so defenseless and I'm just so, um, I'm so overwhelmed. Men don't get a chance to be overwhelmed, even though it happens. We have that God-given knack, that God-given ability to push on even in the most difficult of circumstances, because 9 times out of 10 there's someone that needs us. There's someone who relies on us. There's someone who uh, can't uh, afford to see us dead, gone, down, whatever else. And men rise to that challenge. Men wear that cloak. Men put that crown on. And that's why the saying, heavy is the head that wears the crown. There's a reason for that. Because even though it might have some type of reward, it is also a whole lot of responsibility. And not everyone is able or cut out to be able to shoulder that responsibility.
Well, well said. Well said. Well said. It's not something we don't have, regardless of how we feel, regardless of whether we're sick, hurt. We still have to move because, like you said, there's a responsibility of people that count on us to do what we're doing. And we don't have that in most situations. That point where we can just lay down and just stay down. The world, it doesn't offer us that. It just doesn't. And it's unfortunate, that this world is the way it is, but we're here and we have each other, right? So
Well, and
that's the awesome.
yeah, and that's the beauty of having a great marriage, right? That's the beauty of that. Because when you have that person that God has provided for you, right, in many ways it helps to lessen the load that you have, right? I was listening to radio show earlier today, and you know, my wife and I were in the car and everything else, and the guy was talking about uh, how people just kind of bypass that piece when he's talking about how because he was talking about how the guy was talking about how the Holy Spirit is a helper, right, and everything else, but he helps us in the way that we need the help, and he correlated it with Genesis, and he's talking about the when Eve was created for Adam, and because God had said that there is a that man needed a helper that was for him. So he says, when the guy said, when you look and you come across the tree, the King James, and you see where it says help me, and everybody was like, help me, help me, it was the helper, blah blah blah. But he says no, it goes further than that. It's the helper that was for him. It was the helper that he needed, right? It was the one that he needed. No one else could be the helper that he needed but this woman. And so when you start looking at that and you start to understand that whole concept, that the wife that God gave you is the one that you needed. That is the one that was made and created for you. It changes the dynamic. It really does. Because now it's not that any other woman could have been the helpmeet that I needed. This was the one that God had for me, and is the one that I needed to make up to help me in all of my blind spots, to help me in all of those pieces that I can get the overwhelmed in and everything else. And that's why a great woman brings that peace to your life. You don't want for anything, really. You don't. So she brings that, she helps to bring the peace in your life to make your life stable, so that in those times where you are being overwhelmed for whatever the case may be, right? It takes the edge off. It lightens the burden. Right. And this is the way that God had ordained. So when you look at, when you're talking about that first video and the woman that was in that first video and everything else, the guy was right to let that go. Why? She was no helper. She helped nobody but herself. She didn't respect his time. She didn't respect his integrity. She didn't respect anything at all in regards to this man. Why? Because she was spoiled and selfish. And a spoiled and selfish person is a fool, according to the book of Proverbs. And a fool doesn't bring anything but destruction. He did good. She should have been happy that she went to Cheesecake Factory. She should have been happy he just didn't take her to McDonald's, give her a Happy Meal, and drop her off at the corner.
Called it a day.
Exactly. It makes no sense.
I'm gonna see if I can send you that video. I gotta find it. But he was extremely polite.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely polite.
But he had good. That was a man that
Absolutely
had good character and integrity.
Right. Yes. Absolutely. So I'm gonna try and show the video. You know, my computer's been acting up. I'm gonna try and show it. So hopefully, you know, we can get that popping. Hopefully we can do that. So Let's see if we can.
Okay.
And I'll put us on the bottom. No, it's been on the side. So that's off the coast of Trinidad and Tobago. This is where, you know, the men were working. I'm just going to jump from part to part. These. Okay, I went too far. Hold on. Let me see if I can get the guys.
Operation. But like most employees.
Okay, so these are the 5 guys that actually went down into the pipeline. And what you're going to hear, hopefully it plays, this guy right here on the far extreme left, he's the guy that survived. The other 4, unfortunately, passed away. Our condolences to their families. But the narrator is going to give you a breakdown that, you know, Ant was saying to you earlier about how it was unsafe to go down there and work.
The 5 divers were following orders. The divers descended to their work site, unaware of the surprise. As it turns out, inflatable plugs like this are pressurized, holding back the high-pressure air in the diving bell and the low-pressure air in the pipe itself. These events created the formula for disaster. Once Ali Jr. handed a wrench to his crewmates in the diving bell, they began loosening the valve to release the plug.
So you heard what Ant said. Because of the cheap construction of the cap that they were using, it allowed the pipe to buckle and cause these situations. I didn't even think, did they say anything about a lawsuit or anything like that, Ant? Do you remember hearing anything?
I think that was part of
I don't remember
the
hearing
whole.
anything about a lawsuit. Did you?
Yeah, I think that was part of why that guy was being.
The court
Yeah, the whole court thing, because I think they were
interview.
finding. I think it was a court. The thing was for negligence. So initially
Okay.
for negligence, and they were going to hold him liable for the lives of those guys, and then also to hit them for civil suit, I believe.
And the sad thing about this is these companies always have some type of bread waiting for that. These men or women, whatever, who sat at the top and who gave this order to these guys to go down there in this unsafe environment to work, they should be put in jail, along with paying their families whatever they pay. It shouldn't just be, let me just pay these, because they have this war chest of bread that they could just put to the side and pay.
Yeah.
What do you think on that, big bro?
Yeah, anyone who, and that's why I say it. Dealing in corporate America and everything else, having dealt with it, I know that certain decisions only go so far. Now you'll have the CEOs and everything else talk about, well, the buck stops with me, and I'm the one that's responsible, and this and this and this. 9 times out of 10, that's not the case. That's just saving face and trying to look, have an air of regret and humility and everything else. But 9 times out of 10, the person that signed off on this is someone that's probably maybe about 2 to 3 levels, and they're trying to save some cash to make their bottom line look good. And what they did was, in their need to be cheap and try to look good to those who are upper echelon in the hierarchy, they screwed around and messed up and basically took out some people and took out their lives over some foolishness. Put the right equipment in that needs to be in there, and don't cheap it out. Some things you can cheap out on, that's fine. Things like this, where you have people that's always dealing with, the lives can be in danger and stuff like this, you don't cheap out on that. You don't cheap out on that. You put the right equipment in, you put the right parts in, you do the right thing the first time. And then once
Absolutely.
that's done, then you move on with you. You just eat that cost and say, okay, this was just the cost of doing business. That was sorry. That was horrible.
These
Person who
events
signed off on it
created the formula for disaster.
Absolutely.
Once Ali Jr. handed a wrench to his crewmates in the diving bell, they began to release the plug. The 5 divers had no warning.
So this is, now you have to understand, right? They're underwater at this point right here. And this is the 5 guys, right? And they're unloosening that cap that Ant was talking about, right? That was subpar.
Warning. As soon as they released the plug, the pressure difference turned the inside of the pipe into a relentless vortex, ruthlessly sucking in air, water, people, and equipment into its depths. The power of the suction was too strong, and a torrent of water surged into the diving bell, turning their sanctuary into a death trap. The sudden influx of water and...
All right, so y'all get the gist of... Y'all get the gist of it, right? So I'm going to get you to...
equivalent of like going through a human toilet right there. Somebody getting sucked down the toilet. That's the equivalent.
Absolutely. and keep in mind, I'm claustrophobic, brother. So that pipe, dog. This is what they
90 seconds.
This is 90 seconds it took them to go down into that pipe. But this is what
fighting for oxygen. Suddenly, they came to a stop. They gathered themselves and assessed their positions in the pipe, realizing the gravity of their situation.
So you have to keep Just looking at this, this is how they are in that pipe. This is how they are. So I want you to keep in mind, those of you that talk about, what do men do? I want you to keep in mind when you say, what do men do? Keep in mind, this is the jobs that these men are putting their lives to make sure that you're able to turn on that fire, to make sure that when you pump your gas, to make sure that your elevator is done correctly, to make sure that that building is built correctly, to make sure the infrastructure is sound. This is the purpose of this of Big Ant and I doing this. This is the purpose. So for those of you that that are in that thought process of, what do they do? This is just one of the dangerous jobs, many dangerous jobs that men take on. You want to add anything before we go on, big bro?
No, you good.
Okay.
Of their situation, they discovered that the violent tornado of water, air, and oil left them settled somewhere in the line where an air pocket allowed them to breathe. The sole survivor, Christopher Boudrum, vividly recounts how it went down.
Tornado, everything just spinning and beating you up, and it happened so fast, I couldn't react. The only thing I remember able to do was cover my head, like in the fetal position. After that, all I remember, I didn't even remember actually getting pulled in the pipe. I just remember going hurled through the pipe at unbelievable speeds. I couldn't hold my breath no longer, man. Throat, and you're holding your breath for too long, after a while, your body, your lungs just fight. Yeah, waist closed, you see a noise.
When he said that, I started shedding tears, dog. I started shedding tears because there are so many times, like, you'll hold your breath, but there's just so long you can hold your breath for. And you know that the environment that you're in, you're surrounded by oil, you're surrounded by seawater. Can't breathe. You can't open your eyes to assess what's going on. And when you guys hear these men talk to each other, the calmness that the Lord put on these men was amazing. Nothing less than that. Because anybody else, I think, would have flipped out. These guys were calm. Do you agree with that, big bro, or do you think I'm just going too far into it?
No, that's 100%.
That's 100% right. That's
It's shocking.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Your body suffering to pull air. An unbelievable nightmare. Your eyes burning. Every time you try to open your eyes, it's burning. You're pitch black, you can't see nothing. Your throat burning. Your ears ringing. Your body sore. And at that point, I tell myself I was going to dead.
Their struggle for survival was only beginning. The men were trapped inside a 1,200-foot-long oil pipe, disoriented, injured, and in absolute terror. Amidst this chaos and fear, the men tried to communicate and keep each other's spirits up. However, the reality of their situation squashed down any hope of survival. The GoPro that had been with them for the...
Now, remember what Ant said, right? Remember what Ant said. That they couldn't see, they stayed calm, assessed the situation, keep in mind what's going on. You've just been sucked into this place in less than 23 seconds. Can't breathe, your eyes hurting, throat hurting, body sore, legs broken, and they're calm. You're calm. And you're going to hear this right now. They're just giving you the breakdown. They're setting it up for you. and I don't know if they gave. Did they ever give the diameter of the pipe, big bro?
No, I never heard it, man. I never heard what the diameter
Right.
was.
You know,
But it wasn't enough. It was only enough for them to be single file, though.
right? Absolutely, single file, and probably that's what stopped them from moving because of all that stuff that was coming in because they had the air tubes. I forget what they call them, but air tube that they had to breathe. But let's go on.
The dive recorded every second of their plight, capturing the sheer terror and sounds of struggle as the men fought for their lives. Chris initially believed that they had been hurled through the pipe head first, so they had to crawl backward to make it out of the pipe. But Kazim, Yusuf, and Faisal were sure they had gone in foot first, so he trusted the judgment of the majority. As the least injured diver, Chris placed his feet on Kazim's shoulders. He then instructed Kazim to pull the rest of the group together and instructed Faisal to push everyone since he was at the back. Linked together as a chain with Chris in front, they started trying to make it out of the pipe. Squeezing their way through thick, slippery oil residue and pitch-black darkness was unbearable. Dealing with broken bones, burning eyes, a burning throat, and extreme discomfort weighed them down. Their progress was excruciatingly slow, and the end was nowhere in sight. The men kept praying and moving to the best of their abilities. They eventually came across 2 oxygen tanks with the regulators still attached. Chris informed the men that breathing the air...
Is it paused? I think Melafan says paused. Again, you know, we're going to try to thug it through, Melafan. We're going to try to thug it through. So they're pushing themselves. So again, what the head guy pushed back and they formed a human chain. And the last guy, right, has to push them all through. All through. And the last guy, I believe, Big Ant, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think he was the one with the broken feet, with the broken legs.
I think the last guy was the one with the broken foot, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, a broken foot. So
inside the pipe could make them delirious and nauseous. He advised them to take small sips from the tank in intervals to keep clear oxygen in their system. Although they found oxygen tanks, water levels rose as they progressed. Christopher noticed that some group members struggled to breathe and suffered various injuries. Others were blocked and unable to move. He decided to check how much the water would rise if they continued. As he moved forward, Chris came to a horrifying discovery. The next segment of the pipe was entirely underwater, and with just 2 oxygen tanks for 5 individuals, it wasn't safe to proceed any further. Knowing this, Chris had to make the hardest decision of his life. He had to continue alone to get help for everyone. Chris prepared himself to tell the others. After explaining the situation to them, they agreed it was their only chance and gave Chris one of the oxygen tanks. Chris
weigh in on that, big bro, because that right there is crazy. That Chris being in the front realizes that they can't go no further as a crew. So he explains it to them in the back. And they're like, all right, man, go ahead. Go do your thing. This is where it goes into what you were saying, that he took the burden on saying, I got to go save my men. I have to go save them.
Exactly. In his mindset, he knew that they were all counting on him and that he was the best one to be able to get out of that pipe. And so he took them as far as he could, right? And knowing that he was the best one to get out to be able to do it, he made sure they all understood. They all agreed that he was the best one to go out and do it. And so that's what he did. He didn't. And here's the key part about it too. As you listen to this whole thing, he still didn't know where he was going.
Mm-hmm.
He was basically hoping and praying that he was going the right way. and they'll touch on that too. But remember, he can't see. He's doing everything that he's doing by basically feel. And the feel that he has, and the way he's feeling all of this, and the reason why they're saying what he's saying is that all of that stuff that he's going through, remember where they are. They're on the bottom of the ocean floor. The temperature down there is pretty cold. And that's one of the reasons why you have the diving suits that help, retain your body temperature. But he's having to trudge through all of this partially solidified oil and debris and everything else, trying to make it in what he hopes is the right direction, and not being able to see, knowing that his hearing is not really much to hear, and he is just basically moving blindly along. But it's a responsibility and the thing that he accepted. Kudos to that brother. I mean, man, you don't really know what you're made of until you test it. Far enough.
Absolutely.
Promised that he would get help and come back for them, and left. Still not entirely sure if he was going in the right direction and how much air he had left in the tank. He swam through the submerged section with the tank in front of him, hoping he would find another air pocket soon. The entire pipe had flooded sections, and some contained air pockets. After fighting to make his way underwater, he realized his oxygen was running out based on his air quality. With his diving instincts in overdrive, he breathed the last air in his tank. As if fate intervened, his tank collided with another metal object before him. It was another oxygen tank.
You gonna tell me God don't work? You gonna tell me he don't work? When you have to press forward, he's there waiting on you. He is there waiting on you, but you have to press forward to get to that next portion. And that's what this dude did. Unfortunately, he had no other choice. Don't say the Father ain't with you. He is. Always. I don't know if you want to add to that, big bro.
Hey, like I said, man, it's one of those things where when this was providence, man. This was providence. And every step that he was taking, every move that he was making going up that pipe, he was hitting those. Here's the key. He was hitting all of the. It probably brought him some hope because he was hitting all of the different oxygen tanks that were left behind by the guys that were further back. Because remember, it sucked up all of their equipment and took it down there too. And the oxygen tanks will be lighter than, full body people. So it was very crazy. It really was.
And it goes to show you that we have to press forward, right? As hard as it is. And again, providence. This brother didn't know what he was going into. The same way you don't know what you're going into when you go through your hard times. The enemy wants you to stay where you're at. That's what he wants you to do. We got to press on. Having faith. Remember, there is no comfort in growing. We're traversing a land that we've never been through. So, of course, you're going to be afraid. But know in your heart, know in your spirit, you are not alone. Because hope, when you take hope from somebody, that's when they stay where they're at. When you give them hope, that's when they press forward. This man had no choice. Hope was his friend.
Lee tried to find the new tank's regulator. After scrambling in pitch black, he finally found it, but the regulator had no mouthpiece, so he pushed the whole thing in his mouth. His mouth was covered in oily sludge. He managed to take a relieved breath from the tank. He knew he couldn't stop and continued with all his strength, uncertain how long he could survive. As he clambered through the pipe, he finally entered another air pocket. Yet, instinctively, he knew his only escape was returning to the riser. Unfortunately, this section of the pipe was half full of water. He found another air tank and reached the last flooded section before the riser. At this time, he heard Faisal calling out his name. He had been following Chris. He asked Chris to wait before he entered the last flooded section, but Chris told him he couldn't wait any longer. They had been in the pipe too long, and that their time was running out. He continued until he found the bend in the pipe that he hoped would lead to salvation. After what seemed like hours, this next decision would decide his fate. This was the moment of truth. Either this was berth 5, which was sealed off by a plug, or this was berth 6, where they came from. As he made up his mind for the third time to die, with one last push of determination, he kicked off towards the riser. As Chris continued to swim, he realized how tired he was, but he was determined to make it out and save his crew. Chris eventually reached the top of the pipe. Though he survived the ordeal.
Keep that in mind. As tired as he was determined to save his crew. It wasn't about him, big bro. It wasn't about him trying to save himself. It was about him trying to save his crew. That was the hope. That was the strength. Again, that's about service. That's not about entitlement. That's about service. This is what good leaders do. It's about service. It's about the people. It's about your family. Like Ant said, as husbands, we don't have, as men, we don't have that comfortability. We don't have it. We just don't.
It wasn't over yet. As Christopher recounted the situation to the medical care staff, he recounted as many details as possible about the men and their position. Unfortunately, the rest of the LMCS team couldn't believe Christopher's story. The company assumed that the pipeline was full of oil and that any oxygen tanks they had would only give them an hour of air each. Rescue divers from the LMCS team dove down and knocked on the pipe, trying to find where the men were. They received the satisfying sounds of someone knocking back, undoubtedly providing the trapped men hope. But the LMCS team had yet to find a way to get them out. As the hours ticked by, the 4 injured divers suffered through their injuries, dealing with dwindling air, a curtain of suffocating oil fumes, rising seawater, and carbon dioxide.
Ponder this. Ponder that. That every day that these men went out, in the back of their mind, although they didn't want to think about it, in the back of their mind, something like this can happen, big bro.
Yep. And the deal is, that it's almost always one of those things that that the possibility is there, right? But after a while, it gets to the point of it's like, the possibility is always there that something bad can go wrong, but it hasn't gone wrong yet. So
Absolutely.
a level of comfort starts to exist.
But you hear what the gentleman said, right? So these guys didn't believe Faisal. They didn't believe him, Chris. They didn't believe what he was saying. This dude just climbed out. They didn't believe him. They thought that, they would only have an hour of air. They send divers down to knock on damn pipes. See where they are as the water and the oil is rising. Hours.
It seemed that Pariah Trading Company and LMCS would initially save the 4 men, but rescue never came. The company pulled the 4 remaining bodies days after the incident began. They performed autopsies, but no one could agree on when each man died. Officials decided they survived until Saturday, but some speculated that one endured until Monday. Officials launched a commission of...
Wow. You're stuck in this pipe, oil, water, for days. Not only the negligence of not putting a suitable cap. A survivor comes out and tells you, I got 4 guys behind me that's alive. They don't believe you. They don't send air tanks. They send divers down there to knock on pipes. Then they just call it off. What are these men thinking while this is happening? It's not hours, it's days. That's crazy, Ant.
Well, yeah, the whole time they're probably thinking that help is on its way.
Absolutely.
Did the guy get out? I would believe the guy must have got out. And now you hear banging on the pipes, and you're like, "Oh, they found us!" Because they start answering back. They found us. They found us. Right. And so the whole time you're having hope that they're trying to get you out. But yeah.
The only thing I could think the reason why is to break that pipe up in the middle would have cost them an exorbitant amount of bread. And they didn't want to, right. And they didn't want to go through that. It was easier to pull out bodies when, the overflow pushed them through. Because, when you're awake, you're holding yourself. You try not to, It was easier to do it that way than to send people down there and save these men's lives. You found them. You found them. But we don't need men. Okay.
Inquiry in Trinidad and Tobago to investigate the circumstances that led to the Paria diving tragedy.
Because everything inside me open and rescue. Everything inside me open and rescue was going on. Nobody was making an attempt to rescue me. I always somebody who doesn't know what's going on, and I don't know. Always somebody who can control and see things through, and I feel like
that's the leader. And spoke about cats that come from war. When the man looks to the side of you and say, I put my life in your hands, and you look at him and say, I put my life in your hands, you come through. You don't look at it from the perspective of, I made it. You don't look at it from that perspective. That's a selfish person. Is there solace in you making it? Absolutely. But you carry that burden of knowing your men didn't. Look at the words he said. I failed them. He didn't fail them. The company failed them. They could have been saved. He did what he had to do. He made it through and told him, the other 4 behind me, they didn't believe him. They even sit divers down, banged on the pipes. And like Ant said, they got a response. Word, they found us, Ant. They doing their thing. They called it off. He's going to carry that burden for the rest of his life. the last picture that they took before they went in, and then you're gonna. You got anything you want to say, big bro?
No, you got it, man. You got it.
This is the GoPro footage. Now I want you to see they've already been sucked in. You see how fast that was? That was quick, bro.
Yeah.
That was quick. And when you're pulled in that fast, right? There is no time for you to brace yourself. You get pulled in as you get pulled in. Your body flailing, and you're being pulled into a tube. So imagine if you're being pulled into that tube straight. The force of that's going to bend you. It's going to bend you. And, and I have to stop in between because we don't want to get striked. So, just letting it play through. So they're being pulled in.
I'm trying to come up. Yeah. Yeah. All right behind you. You're right behind me. You don't know when to come up. Who making all that noise? Come on, all that we let's figure it out. We gotta go. We gotta start moving.
So you hear him in the bottom of of the ocean, being sucked into a pipe. You hear him asking, "Is everyone okay?" Who's that moaning? He's not thinking about himself. He's thinking about his men. Yeah, who is that? We got to keep moving, man. We can't stay here. That's that hope we talk about. When you take hope from someone, you essentially make them a boulder. There is no reason to keep moving if there's no hope. What's the purpose if I have no hope? Hundreds of feet underground, underwater, the bottom of the ocean floor, right? Listen to him.
Yeah. Where you at? I don't know. I'm trying to come up. Trying to come up. All is good. All is good. I'm going to get you there.
These dudes are underwater in a pipe that just sucked them through a vortex. Less than 23 seconds. And listen to what he says. God is good. That's that hope. He didn't fail those men. And if this brother can hear us, you didn't fail your men, man. Your company did. And they'll pay. They'll pay. Because the righteous judge will judge. He will hold them accountable. You didn't fail them. You did what the Lord put on your heart to do. God is good. In a pipe with oil and water, can't see, hard to breathe, broken legs, broken feet, and still able to say God is good. You want to add anything to that, Big Ant, before we move on?
No, I'm fine. We're good. You covered that one 100%, bro.
All right.
Yusuf! Oh, Yusuf! How long you have to walk before you meet Friday? You want fight once again all the time?
Now, keep in mind when he's saying how long you have to walk before you meet Pfizer, he's not talking about literally walking. He's talking about crawling. Because remember, at this point, they're trying to put their, foot on shoulder, so that they can move up like a worm. So that's what he's asking, just to make sure everybody's together. So that's what he means by walk.
Right now. Who else with you? Can't with you. Right there, where? Can't everything all right with you? No. And your leg break? Your leg, all right. Fine. Anything happen to you? Yeah. Fine? No, why? Yusuf, anything happen to you? Yeah, fine. What happened? All right.
Sucked forcefully into an
So, and so crazy. And Faisal, I believe that was the dude behind Chris that tried to go with him. There was nothing wrong with him.
No.
Because he asked, you're good? So that means they could have got him out because he wasn't that far behind Chris.
Right.
Yo, man. So the next time y'all say men ain't good for nothing, when you turn your fire on, you walk up your steps of that high rise or whatever, understood that most of it was built by men, if not all of it. But this goes deeper than that. This goes into hope. And love. He loved those men, man. What pushed him and propelled him forward was hope and love. And what's so crazy, even in there, still saying God is good, man. God is good. Why? We alive. We say this every morning when we do the reads. Every morning. It is the day the Lord provided. Rejoice in it. I paraphrased it. You're alive. It may not be the best situation, but you're alive. You're breathing. A lot of people didn't wake up. Rejoice in that. Rejoice in it. Me and Big Brother in 84, y'all can weigh in.
Go ahead, 84. You got it.
I think what Bolo's saying is absolutely correct. Just being grateful that you're alive. That's a big thing. And also, I think people have to just stop. I did an Instagram live about this, about people saying that they don't care about men, and men can't show emotion and man up and all that, and men can't cry and all sort of stuff. Like, what I mean? I think it's a big thing that's going on where people just telling men that they can't be expressive of who they are, and the sacrifices that they make are not important. I think it's a real cruel thing to say, and it's a real inhumane thing to say. So as you see, man, men, we show emotion, and the emotion that we show, is genuine. We do have genuine emotion. I'm not saying we're perfect, because no one is, but in that, no buts. It's just like, we need to be appreciated, just like just like women need to be appreciated. Everybody has value, and everybody needs love. And when people are in a particular field, whether it's coal mining, whether it's pipe dwelling, whether it's a fireman or a police officer, or even a soldier in the military, these people are putting their lives on the line for the people. And we got to appreciate them, and we have to honor them, for what they do. So salute to that team. Salute to everybody that put their life on the line to try to fix that pipe and try to do the right thing to restore services to the people and make sure the water was running sufficiently. And yeah, salute to them. So that's all I got to say.
Yeah, I would second that. I really would. That's you just don't you just don't know, man. You just don't know. It took me a while to kind of realize that, and sometimes even nowadays I get kind of sucked into what's happening in my day to day. And when I get a moment and I sit back and just recognize not only what God has brought me through, people that He's put into my life, and also just that the phrase there, but for the grace of God go I. I mean, that's a really and truly, that's a powerful statement. And the reason why it's powerful is because you never know. You never know. Your ticket could be punched at any time. At any time, your ticket can be punched. And knowing that, it does give you a sense of gratitude. And times I'll be, moving from one place to the other or whatever, and, I'll have some music playing and windows down and just going from point A to point B, but just enjoying the moment, right? Nothing major happened. Nothing, fantastical was, I got some great epiphany or anything else outside of just gratitude. Gratitude. And so it's a hard, I hate that it took me so long to understand that concept. I really do. I hate it that it took so long to understand the concept. But now that I do understand the concept of it all, it makes me appreciate it even more. It really does.
Big Ant, you be blasting off when you be driving? What you be listening to, Big Ant?
It depends, man. Everything but Cookie Monster, death metal, and country.
I got you.
I see Joseph is in the building. What's going on, man?
Hello.
How you been, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Wow, pretty good, pretty good.
Joseph, what up, man?
Long time no speak.
Yeah, it's been a while. A few weeks. How you doing?
Doing pretty good, man. What about yourself?
Pretty good. Just focused on the mission, man.
I
Focus
hear
on the
you. I
purpose.
hear you. Go ahead and weigh in on the subject.
Yeah, I saw. Well, let's say I saw most of the video. I didn't care to listen to the last 2 minutes for obvious reasons. But the rest of it, yeah, that's. I think people are just far removed from the realities that us men, the risk we put ourselves through, the physical harm we endure. We have a very high tolerance for it because of just how we're built. And testosterone will make us do some crazy shit. We start off jumping off of roofs and climbing trees, but that's what gives us the fortitude to go into becoming divers, firefighters, policemen, builders of society, and just I think this gives a very clear perspective on the risk that we take in order to build the society that we live in, and that at one point in time, women used to appreciate, as well as children. So there was a lot of respect there. I don't know at what point in time they became so far removed from the reality of how the physical world is built and creating the comforts that they have, the running waters that we have, we walk into the super food market and it's just thousands of different options of food. We take that for granted. But I think that we got removed from that because people don't have to farm anymore. People don't have to go and fetch water in the well anymore. People don't have to fight their own wars anymore. So they send out us men to go and do it out of sight, out of mind and you don't really appreciate it until something like this happens and it's right there in front of your face. And it's jarring, but this stuff happens often. This is just one incident in which it's publicized, but a lot of this stuff happens all the time. There are hundreds and thousands of deaths that happen across many of these dangerous fields that we take on, some of which I have participated in myself. Crazy things I did looking back, like, why did I do that? And you just don't think twice about it. And it's like, oh, I could have cut my hand off by using this chainsaw the wrong way or the way it kicked back. Damn, that almost took my head off. And you just keep going. Like, it's crazy things we do. But a lot of times, sometimes you don't make it out. In this situation, this is what happened. And lastly, as far as like the prospect of death and the imminency of it and unexpected nature of it, I haven't experienced what I experienced earlier this year. It's probably when you're faced in the prospect of something like that. For me personally, it was less about me leaving this earth, and being upset about it, and more so about me not having accomplished what I wanted to accomplish while I was here on this earth. So if someone is fortunate enough to have that moment where they realize, wow, I didn't really get to do everything I wanted to do, accomplish everything I wanted to accomplish while I was here. Whether that's starting a family, raising a child, traveling the world, or doing what I'm going to be doing in the very near future. It's these things that come to mind very quickly. Like, damn, I felt like I didn't really fulfill my potential and my purpose while I was here. So I think some people have the perspective of, I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to be here. And I won't take it for granted. And then you have a different type of people who it's less about them being grateful, being alive, such as this man here who made it out, who was the only one who could have made it out. His reason for living and his purpose was not so he can survive, was that so he can get out and save his friends, which is why he harbors so much guilt that he can't take on, because he did exactly what he said he was going to do. But outside of him making it out and telling the people responsible for saving those other men, there was nothing else he could have done. It was out of his hands. But because of the promise he made to them and his reason for living to survive and get out, he felt like that it was in vain, even though he survived. So when you're in a situation like that, whether you're in the face of a barrel of a gun or you're faced in a pipe that is seemingly impossible to get out, or you're in a burning building and you realize there's fire all around you, these things come to mind, and your will to live can change. Because on the surface, it may seem like, oh, well, it's about me trying to make it out. It's about me trying to survive. It's about me, living versus you living for others. So it's even in that dire situation where we feel like there's helplessness in our situation, the will to live is a direct result of you wanting to be of service to others. Like Bolo said, like you said, it's that war. You're in a war mentality. It's not necessarily about you surviving the gun battle. It's about making sure your brother in arms next to you survives the gun battle, even if you don't. And that brother feeling the same way about you, even if they don't. And ultimately, that's what humanity is about. That's how we're built. I feel like as men, we're built to endure these things. And just to circle around back to the first point, it's that lack of respect. That this is the reality of things. This is how it all comes about. This is how society is built. You have people who cut corners like this, and sometimes the corners aren't cut. Sometimes it's just mistakes like this happen. You can cross all the T's, dot all your I's, and it's still going to end up, maybe cutting off a limb or, getting hit by a truck, or you're driving a semi truck. That's a dangerous profession. But people don't think about, how their food get to and from where they go. They don't have to farm their own food. You just go and pick up stuff and you pay a little cash and you're done. But these men endure a lot of the hell, the sleet, the snow, crashes. It's a lot that goes into it. 40, 50, 60-hour weeks is insane. And that's just driving a truck. So all for the purpose of ensuring that everyone else has comfort. Everyone else enjoys the luxuries of life that most of us take for granted, including men. But we take it for less granted just because a lot of us are involved in those professions. Some of us are electricians and plumbers and things like that, HVAC technicians. So we can see it firsthand because we're involved in it. But the further removed we are from it, then the less respect and appreciation you have for it. And it's just unfortunate that something like this has to happen for people to get just a bird's eye view of the reality of the situation. So, that's all I want to say about that. It's an interesting video, to say the least. But I'm not surprised. I'm like, I'm surprised they caught what they caught, because you almost never, you hear about it, stories about it, but does it go national? Does it get televised? Very rarely, very, very rarely. But most of us men, we know other men who have been through things. Oh, I had my finger cut off, or, oh, dang, yeah, my elbow got blown off, or, yeah, I almost lost the limb, I almost lost the ear. And, you see these, we get maimed for the things we do, for society to run that it does. So that's all I want to say about that.
And Joseph, I think the things that happen, the way you say it, happen because, and I'm guilty of this too, we don't live in reality, man. We're desensitized. Even me, I'm desensitized. Just go to the store, you buy whatever you want. You don't like your phones, you can get rid of them. You want one phone, you get one phone. You want two phones, you get two phones. Like, we don't live in reality, man. We don't. Like I said, even me. You know what I mean? When one of my appliances don't work, or, working right, that gives us the technology that we love, I get frustrated automatically. Not thinking about what it takes to make these things happen, because I'm so used to living in convenience. You know what I'm saying? And that's really the problem with all of us. We're so used to living in convenience. Living in convenience is good, you know what I mean? But it also makes us selfish. It makes us not grateful. It makes us desensitized. It makes us not empathetic or sympathetic to the.
Yeah, we lost you. Well, we got OG Patrice up here. OG, how you doing?
I'm good. Good evening, good
How
night,
you doing? How you doing?
wherever you are in the world. How's everybody doing, gentlemen? And salute to the chat.
Doing pretty
Hello,
good.
hello.
Yourself?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. How are you?
Awesome. I'm good. Thank you. Brother Bolo, I don't know. I think this is my first time up here on your platform.
This is your first time. This is. Welcome.
Oh,
Welcome.
thank you so much. I appreciate it. I was listening. I felt compelled to come up, to speak to the men. Just listening to this story and how heartbreaking it is, but also at the same time how brave it is knowing that, that man showed emotion, showed love, showed compassion, showed empathy, showed sympathy for his fellow brothers, and coming back, the speech he gave, and knowing that this man will live with survivor's remorse for the rest of his life. People don't understand how survivor's remorse feel when you are in something of tragic and trauma with your fellow brothers and sisters and they meet their demise and you don't. There's a sense of survival remorse that you feel as to wishing you could have went with them or why it didn't happen to you too and you would have wanted to go out that way with them. So I think that people need to really understand like the level of emotion that takes, for a human being to feel, and especially a man, and to know that we have a female who alleged to have served her country to get on her platform and other platforms and talk about how men don't have the capacity to love is just beyond me. It's beyond me, as a human being. And we all were created in the image of God, right? So if man was created first and woman was created from the rib of a man, we are part of you. So if men say, well, women are so emotional, there's got to be a part of the man that's emotional too, because we come from you. Do we not? So to hear a woman that has served her country, that I'm sure she have been in positions with her fellow man where she need to be there and step up for them and them for her, to hear her say that men don't have the capacity to love is just beyond me. So I wanted to say to you men, in encouragement and inspiration and motivation, to please continue to level up every day, starting from your homes until the moment you walk out that door, because you never know where you're going to be needed in the space in the world. And just know that you are needed. That's why you were created. That's why woman was created, to be your helpmeet. And for anyone else to say or anything else different from that, I beg to differ. So I just wanted to say that to you, gentlemen, and I appreciate you letting me come up. I'll continue to just listen in the chat, but this is very moving to me, and I just felt compelled to come up here and say that to you men, because I know we don't say that to each other enough. Men don't say it to women enough to help inspire us, and women don't say it to men enough to help inspire them. So I just wanted to, in this space and time, to say that to you men and to tell you to please continue to be inspired. And I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for letting me come up and share the space with you.
You ain't got to thank us. This is your home, so you can come up anytime.
I appreciate it. Have a good night, gentlemen.
You too, darling.
All right.
I wish what she said was more prevalent. I think that's honestly why a lot of men, and from just my experience having a lot of homeboys around, women like her and who say the things she say and who act on it, the things a man can go through, it can take whatever sensibilities to love you may have and make you very cold, very dark, in ways that women are just sometimes shocked to see. I've had to catch myself from getting to that point because of the experiences I've had with women that I've interacted with in my life in all capacities, whether it's work, relationship, friendships, family, or even potential romance partners. So you don't always feel that kind of love. And so the only way a lot of men respond to it is, well, that's not what they want. And so we tend to react in the way that, well, this is what they want. So you become almost like the monster that you hate to see yourself become. And so any kind of love or, having love or crying about anything or that expression of emotion that we saw in that video, that's also rare for a lot of people to see. And it's not because it's not in us innately to be that way. It's because a lot of us have been, well, I grew up in the 90s. So if you had fathers, some of us have had fathers and even mothers who would essentially beat it out of you. You'd be called a sissy for shedding a tear. You would be berated by your classmates. You would be bullied by your own parents, threatened with assault for having those normal emotions and feelings. And so it becomes stunted, becomes repressed. And then the result is that you have a lot of the men today who even when they hear someone like OG speaking, it's more than just the words being said to the man. It has to be demonstrated by a woman. And if she is accepting of a man loving the way we want to do it, then we can open up about it. But some women, they'll get on you about that too. You soft. You too soft. I need a man. I need a real, what they call a real man. And so that insinuation is that, well, a real man doesn't have emotions. He doesn't cry. He doesn't love. He's just a stone cold type of individual. They get that individual. Okay, that's what I want. But then they don't want the consequences of who that individual becomes as a result of those lack of empathy that you have for women. It goes away with that. So you get the men you think you want, or the type of men you think you want in society, but that's the consequence. Because we typically will adapt to what a woman wants because they are the access to building a family, starting civilization, and sex, and any sort of emotion or companionship. So you adapt to it. It seems like you're forced to do so. I've seen a lot of men who started off like myself and the idea of love and being loved by women, but they've been dogged by so many that they end up being the doggers. And they feel like they had no choice but to be that way. They ultimately end up unhappy as a result anyway, long term, after having been through so many women, looking for something that they once believed in at the start of their pursuit of finding a legitimate relationship with a woman. And not just romantically, but also, let's say, with their mother. That's dysfunctional. With their friends, that's dysfunctional. Work colleagues, that's dysfunctional. So it's appreciated when someone like OG says something like that. It's just unfortunate that in reality, it's not that kind of love, of expression of love, and that openness, and say, hey, yes, it actually is okay to not boo-hoo cry all the time about little things. You don't cry about stuff like that, but to feel like, okay, I want to cry, and not being ridiculed for doing so, for shedding a tear. I've just recently learned to let that go and not care about how a woman, but sometimes there's a consequence to it. I'm still aware of that. But I figured the one that is for me would accept me for being a full emotional human being, not just this logical, automaton, robotic shell of a person that seems very cold, which we are privy to. We're not as emotional as one because we don't, that's just our nature. But to be completely cold, it's also the same stereotype with women. Oh, they're just always emotional. But that's not always true. Oh, because they had the monthly cycle, they're always like that, just up and it's not true. Some of the most logical women I've met, or logical people I've met, were women. Some of the most emotional people I've met were men. So I think the stereotypes that we have of each other hinders each other, both male and female. And really, that's all I want to say about that.
And then you said a mouthful, bro. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's true, man. Like, but the one thing I want to say to just you and to other brothers, and even to myself, is that when these women act like that, man, they're not worth it. They're not worth it. You know what I mean? They are not worth it. You know what I mean? If they haven't earned the value of a woman, don't look at them as a woman. Just look at them as who they're acting as, and keep them in that category and keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we got to do. That's what we as men have to do. That's what we have as a society have to do. When people show us who they are as a character, hey, you got to accept them. You know what I mean? So that doesn't take away from the women who are actually great in quality and actually really value people and value men and value other people around them. You know what I'm saying? And, and it's a shame that those women have to suffer because of those few other ones who don't value anybody. They only care about money or only care about, getting what they can get from a man. So, yeah, I just want to tell you and other brothers, man, that those women are not worth it. They're not worth you, not being who you are destined to be and letting God's light shine in your life and shine to other people. You know what I'm saying? Because when you dim your light based on what others have done to you, you're only robbing yourself.
That's true. The crazy part is that it's not so much that the man treats women who are good the way that the women before him who treat him badly to other women. Is that he attracts the women that treated him. It's like that's his blueprint of how a woman is. So he can't help but be around those type of women. So he'll be around those type of women who may have abused him, traumatized him in some way emotionally. It's like an eternal thing. Because when we love a woman, we don't love men the same way. If you're a straight male, you have a level of trust to a woman where you're giving her almost like your internal world. And a woman is given a man's outer world. So he's doing the protector and provider thing. But on the flip side, it's the woman's responsibility to look after and nurture his heart, his soul like a garden. But when that's abused, that man then becomes adjusted to what that type of woman is. And so he can only typically find those type of women. So he's like trapped in this cycle, this loop. And it's very difficult to get out of that loop. So especially if your first experience or two or three with a woman is that type of woman, typically starts with the mother or whoever their mother figure was growing up. And then it becomes the first girlfriend. Oh, wow. I didn't expect that. She's just like my mom. And then just keeps going and going. Keeps going. It's like a loop. Breaking that loop, very, very difficult. So it's easy to say, don't let that affect you. But in doing that, in a way, that's the coldness I'm talking about. You have to develop a hardness in order to not let it affect you. But that hardness and sort of like putting up that shield, like a RoboCop, it makes it harder for the type of woman that you do want to positively affect you, to enter and penetrate that armor that you had to build up in order to stop. So then it's like it defeats the purpose of having the armor in the first place. You're thinking, I got to build this armor to protect myself from the woman I just got done dealing with. But in doing that, you block yourself from being loved and accepted by the woman that you want to be with. So then you end up getting stuck going back to the woman that you're trying to avoid. So it's that circular loop, that cycle. So it's difficult to have gone through that experience and decide, I want to build up this armor. I want to put up this wall. I'm choosing not to do it. And go through so many different experiences until you find that one where you feel like you can be open and honest and somewhat vulnerable with a woman who will love you and respect you as a man, not just for what you can do for her, but for you as a human being. Like, you are an emotional person. You also have a heart and a soul, like she does. But because she's been trained to believe that men are a certain way, the stereotype, he's always hard, he's always strong, he's always this. It leaves very little room for you to be the man, full expression of a man that you want to be. So I don't know if it's a societal thing. It appears to be, but that's kind of the way it is. At least that's the way I see it. I've been fortunate enough to avoid it, but I have definitely put up those walls, that armor, and then realize, oh, this is giving me the same result I got before. I'm trying to avoid these type of women, but so I have to let go of the guard down again and make myself vulnerable to the possibility that I could still be hurt or have my internal world shattered in a way. And I have to be open to that possibly happening for me to get to the type of woman that won't allow that I can trust that won't happen. And a lot of men just don't get to that point. And I don't blame them for it, because that is as painful as a man physically harming a woman. It's when a woman emotionally harms a man. That's a type of punch that some women are aware of that. Some of them don't. They just do it. It's kind of like we don't know our strength sometimes. So we'll grab a woman playfully and she, leave a bruise on her, but we don't understand how strong we are. Similarly with a woman, they can say something, do something that can bruise us. And they don't understand how powerful that is on our very souls and our heart. So that's it. Felt like I kind of went on a bit of a tangent, but
no, bro, I'm following you. I'm following you, bro. like no, I mean, and the only way you can get rid of that cycle is to basically, just have your own standards, boundaries, and morals, and don't get sucked into certain things. Like, if you know that if you see the red flags and they're there, you know what I mean, then you have to address it. And sometimes we can be attracted to things that are negative and evil. You know what I'm saying? I'm just going to be completely honest. You know what I mean? We can be attracted to the wrong things, and because we're attracted to the wrong things, you know what I mean, that allows us to be in these toxic relationships that are not fulfilling for us. You know what I mean? So we have to get away from that. And that's hard. That's hard, because if you like the way a certain woman looks, or you like the way she smells, or whatever, man, that can really draw you in. But then you have to ask yourself, what benefit is she bringing me? What is she bringing into my life? Is she bringing me closer to God, or to something that's good, or something that's positive, or she's taken away from it? It's either one or the other. And the Bible talks about that. It talks about a woman who is no good, and who, is better to be on the roof of a house than be with a quarrelsome woman, and all of the other stuff, right, that we read in the Bible. So we see that, but then we also see the Proverbs 31 woman, right, and the character that she has, and how the man is he's just blessed by her being in his life, and how she works and labors to make sure that man and the family is taken care of just as much as he works and labors to make sure that she's taken care of. You know what I'm saying? And they work hand in hand. So, you know what I mean? That's the character that we need to be going after. But sometimes we're just attracted to the wrong things, man. And a lot of times that can lead to it. I'm not saying that's you specifically, brother, but I'm saying that the best thing to do is just look at, see the warning signs, also take accountability for your choices as well. And then just read the warning signs, man. If you see that certain things keep happening, and you see that there's certain characters that you're attracting, and you see that, you know, certain things are happening, that you just gotta be like, you know what, maybe there's things that I'm liking that is not good for me, or maybe there's certain characters that I'm liking that's not good for me, and then just, you know, readjust. You know what I mean? Because sometimes because of abuse or because of trauma, because of things we have in our life, sometimes we just get addicted to toxicity. I got to check myself on that, like, because of an abusive background I've been through. Sometimes I'm attracted to trauma, and that's not a good thing. That's really, really bad, and that's something that we have to fight, look after, and then, you know, redirect ourselves so that we can be with someone who is going to bring out the best in us and not the worst.
You know, I feel like you make a great point. I feel like what Bolo or Anthony will follow with that is, and who do you think that would be? It would be Jesus Christ. It would be God. You turn to God, and that would solve those issues. He will guide you to the one. He will solve those problems. And I would say he's right. And that's the turning point I had to make. I had to get outside of my own mind and literally follow him, look to his desires, what he wants for my life, in order to break that cycle that I myself was going to fall into in regards to dealing with women. And it's interesting, people see me, oh, you're a model, you got all this going on, and I go out in public and I dress a certain way, and I attract a fair share of very nice, attractive women. But they don't see that just because they see all of that. And, oh, how could you possibly have issues? Oh, it's because attracting a woman is once you have them right there in front of you and you actually get to know them, then you start to see characteristics of yourself in them. That's a little weird, because you're expecting one thing, and then it's like, wow, this person had this thing I don't really like. And then you start analyzing yourself like, damn, that's something about me I don't like. It's something that what is that? It's that kink in your armor that you see reflected in the woman that you're talking to, but it's like veiled behind her beauty, her looks, her appearance. You don't see that immediately. But of course, God does. So spiritually, you can see through it, but it would take spiritual eyes to see through it, to avoid it, and to know which woman to look at. Okay, this one is the one for me. This one I shouldn't be talking to. This one will be good for me in work, in business. This is the person I should, so on and so forth. So without God, it's sort of like without that outside influence to help you see that, you would say the Holy Spirit, then it will be much more difficult. We will rely more so on our own eyes to see. She looks beautiful. She must have a beautiful soul. Not necessarily. It could correlate. She could be beautiful and have a beautiful soul. But sometimes you might see someone that looks like not your normal type, but turns out to be the type of woman that's right for you. But that's you looking to God and saying, okay, well, God, what do you want from me? What do you see for me as going forward in relation to dealing with women and being treated with respect, being treated as a human being and not just a worker bee, not just a guy who goes into the sewer pipes to do diving work and then be lost and forgotten. Oh, it's just business as usual. So how can you find someone like that? Well, then you could take it upon yourself and do that work on your own. You might go through a few women. You might get lucky and find one. Or you can just simply rely on God to give you that perspective, to help you see through people that you couldn't see on your own without God's influence, without his spirit to lead you. And it would make the process a lot easier. But to do that requires a level of humility, I've learned, in order to see that. Because even as men, we can be more prideful. Oh, I can figure this out on my own. Or I can find what I'm looking for on my own. Whether it's your purpose, it's a woman, it's career path, whatever it is, as men we pursue. I can do this on my own. And it's that constant battle of doing that. Consequences, of course, is what I just described earlier. And that's what a lot of men deal with. Even I still myself deal with it, and I still fight against it. I'm aware of it, and I fight against that. Say, oh, whoa, that's my pride coming in. That's the arrogance coming in. Let me get this under control. Okay, God, what's the next step? Okay, cool. But sometimes I overstep. Oh, I'm on a roll. I got this. He helped me get someplace. Oh, I can take it from here. Oh, damn, how did I end up with this woman? Damn, how did I end up losing all this money? Dang, how did I end up staring down the barrel of a gun? So.
Man, thanks for sharing that, bro. Appreciate that, for real.
Yes, sir. Y'all cooking tonight, man.
Oh, we trying, man. I got some steak dinners on our way.
Oh my goodness. Well, guys, I gotta bounce a little bit early. I have an early morning to go through. So you guys take it light.
All right, big brother.
I will catch y'all on the flip side.
I'm gonna holler at you, Aunt, tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good, man.
All right, baby.
All right, buddy. All right, you too, guys.
Yeah, we ain't gonna be up that long. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad you guys came up, man. Glad you guys came up to share. You know, OG Patrice came up. We haven't done this, we haven't had a OG up here at all. This was our first time, so awesome thing. Joseph, what's the deal, yo?
What's up, man? I've been dropping in from time to time. It's been the first time I did this in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I listen in. I have it on the background. I just be listening. Okay. You get on real late now. You used to be on a lot earlier.
Yeah,
12 o'clock.
Yeah. Because by the time, brother, I'll be out of it, dog. I'll be out of it. With the difference in work schedule, it's just a whole different world. So, I try to give myself a little time to rest a little bit. Once I get back to the work schedule, we'll be back at 9:30, 10 o'clock, like we used to. But it's not like this is light work for you. You a night cat, so it's light work.
Yeah, I got to break that habit.
I see you got the little braid hanging up in the front.
No, that's just my hair. It curls up like that.
Oh, look at you!
Naturally, I don't braid. I don't know. People always thought I braid. I was like, I don't braid my hair. I ain't got time for all of that. Sitting in the 2-3 hours, like, no, and talk about what for 3 hours? Just no. No, my hair just naturally does that.
Okay.
Not good trying to pick that shit out. It's like this is like a braid. I gotta cut it now.
All right, well listen, I appreciate both of you cats coming up. We gonna call it a night, and being that you haven't been here for a minute, my G, you get to pick the songs, baby. Talk to us.
5.
Sound like you had that loaded up. Psalms 5. I'm getting it right now for you. Psalms 5. Okay. That's a good Psalms. Psalms for guidance. All right. So here we go. Give ear to my words, O Lord. Consider my meditation. Give heed to the voice of my cry, my King and my God. For to you I will pray. My voice you shall hear in the morning, O Lord. In the morning I will direct it to you, and I will look up. For you are not a God who takes pleasure in wickedness, nor shall evil dwell with you. The boastful shall not stand in your sight. You hate all workers of iniquity. You shall destroy those who speak falsehood. The Lord abhors the bloodthirsty and deceitful men. But as for me, I will come into your house in the multitude of your mercy. In fear of you, I will worship toward your holy temple. Lead me, O Lord, in your righteousness because of my enemies. Make your way straight before my face, for there is no faithfulness in their mouth. Their inward parts is destruction. Their throat is an open tomb. They flatter with their tongue. Pronounce them guilty, O God. Let them fall by their own counsels. Cast them out in the multitude of their transgression, for they have rebelled against you. Let all those who rejoice, who put their trust in you, let them ever shout for joy because you defend them. Let those also who love your name be joyful in you. For you, O Lord, will bless in righteousness with favor. You will surround it as with a shield. Amen. Father God, thank you for allowing us to come together to praise your name. Thank you for allowing these testimonies to happen tonight. We ask you, Father, to please give us wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Give us faith where there's doubt. Give us strength where there's weakness. Give us understanding where there is confusion. We ask you, Father, to please always be with us. Help us to see you. For we know that you are with us. Help us to stay hopeful. Help us to stay in your wisdom, in your patience, in your long suffering, in your mercy, your grace, one towards another. We ask you, Lord, to please bless the families of those men that passed and of the man that survived. We ask you, Lord, to please bless all those that are on the prayer list, all those that serve you in truth and in spirit. We ask you, Lord, to please give strength to those that suffer with mental illness, depression, addiction. Let them know that there is no glory in death, but there is glory in life and servitude to you. We ask you, Lord God, to please give strength to Lady Navoa and her family. We ask you, Lord, to please protect those that are on the road. Give them travel mercy. To those that are sick, we ask you to please give them the strength to persevere. To those that have lost, we ask you, Lord God, to please comfort their soul. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Last words on you, 84.
Hey, man. Bolo, thanks for having me up, man. Appreciate you. Much love. Much love to Joseph. Big end to you and everybody else, man. You know what I mean? Hey, you know what I mean? Everybody, let's just continue to just focus and be at our best, man, and just be there to help each other, man. That's what it's about. Much love to all y'all. I'm out.
All right, my brother. Joseph, last words on you, baby.
That video was, to me, and I think every man can vouch for it, was a testament to brotherhood and the will to survive. And most of us would never be put in situations like that where something suddenly takes place and now you're having to think outside the box and having to rely on will and, as you said earlier, hope. Having hope, odds of you coming across two different breathing tanks that happen to have the exact amount of oxygen that you need to survive. It's crazy. God for sure, but it was his will to live, but more so his will to save his brothers, who he considered his family. You can imagine they were his family, not just his co-workers, but people that he probably worked with for many, many months and years, that he built a relationship with. He knew their families, I'm sure of it. That last photo they took before they went down showed that there was something else there than just diving. They were there together. So that just that lesson to me, it I didn't expect to see it. Came in the middle of watching it, and I was like, wow, this is something that we all need to see, and we all need to appreciate, not only our lives but the lives of those around us that we love and care about, because just like that, you could be the one out of only a couple of people in any situation to survive. And then how do you react to that? How do you respond to that? How do you live your life after the fact? And in what way will you use yourself as a testimony to reach other people, to help you, or to help other people in the same situation? But the thing is, a lot of us, because we're not in that situation, and we probably never will be, can't relate. But then we look to these people as examples of what that looks like. Even the Christ, he did it, he did it. And as the example of what we should look and aspire to be like, to be Christ-like. But because a lot of us have never been through situations like that, have never been whipped, have never been threatened to have gone across, have never been berated, spit at, we can only observe and imagine what that would be like. But then when it comes down to it, how will we react? How will we behave? Will we only think about ourselves selfishly? Will we, or will we selflessly look to help those around us to save their lives and give them hope as well? So that was a good video, a good topic, and I appreciate you sharing that with all of us.
Well, listen, everything you said was 100% on. The only thing I would add is I'd like to thank, Big Brother number 1 for coming up. I'd like to thank OG Patrice for coming up. Thank you for blessing us. 84 for coming up, yourself. And the village. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for making this night, kind of reminiscent of what we used to do in the past. We gotta get back to what we do good best. You know what I'm saying? But you said 100%. So we're gonna end on what you just said. Lord willing, we might be doing something on Sunday. I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out. And hang back, man, as we end it. Guys, have a blessed night. Love you all. Lord willing, we might have something Sunday, but definitely on Monday. Have a blessed night, guys. Love you all.